Kirk Ferentz on the quarterbacks was pleased with what they've got in the vertical passing game. The open practice, Iowa hit on some throws 15, 20 plus yards down the field. I repeat, wait for it. Iowa connected on throws down the football field. Oh, baby. It was glorious to watch. Iowa throw the football successfully down the football field in the open spring practice. And Kirk Ferentz said on the vertical passing game that it was probably more on that day than they've seen all spring, which I thought was an interesting quote. Is Kirk trying to pull the fast one here on opponents, or is he being honest by saying that was more vertical passing game than Iowa's seen all spring? Most would jump in and say Chris, he's being honest based on the last however many years, but I don't know. I'm hopeful that he's trying to, keep a couple of pocket aces.
Definitely the second thing. He's definitely got some aces in his pocket still. I've seen that, Iowa's leaning towards a run first offense again. And, it's you got to feel confident about the passing game. I'm sure like we showed a lot of good things in the spring practice, but I believe that's going to be misleading to other coaches. And but here's the thing though. Here's the thing is that you can't just expect Iowa to run the ball the entire time again. And when you stop the run, just not to throw the ball or to be at the 1 yard line and punt it again. Because now, again, we have some quarterbacks that can consistently throw it on the field. Now it's going to be a little different where, okay, they might be running first. They're going to run a lot, but you still got to have our DBs ready because they're good. They're probably going to launch one. We got some big receivers, like I said, some Stranger, Reese Vanderzee, Zach Ortworth, some guys over 6 foot that can really make plays downfield. We're a lethal all-around offensive team that's not just a run offense no more. In terms of next year, it's both. And Tim Lester, now he has another year with Iowa under his belt. He's learning the new guys, but a lot of those offensive guys are coming back. Now he knows their skill sets, he knows their strengths, and this offense is really going to come together, and we're going to average more than 27 points a game because of the continuity that's there along with the talent we're bringing in. So whether it is supposed to be misleading or not, I think that teams, regardless, are still going to have to prepare for a different type of offense because we're going to throw it more and we're going to be more successful at throwing the ball, and that's going to make us better, and we're going to be better than 8-4.
Count me in the camp of Poker Kirk. I hope that he's playing a little poker here. He mentioned about, again, the passing game, the vertical passing game. He said, I think if we've grown more at one spot than at any other spot, it's the wide receivers group. He said just a little bit more veteran there. Guys have a better understanding of what they're being asked to do, which is something that we've touched on, Chris, that Reese Vanderzee, okay, healthy, big-bodied guy, somebody we saw go do some positive things in his first year on campus. Excited about what Reese Vanderzee can bring to the table. Fired up that you went and got Sam Phillips out of the transfer portal. Jacob Gill, another player that has done good things at Iowa a season ago. And the list goes on, right? Dayton Howard did some impressive things throughout the open spring practice. And I'll miss a couple of names, I'm sure, from the wide receivers. Who else am I missing from the wide receiver? Seth Anderson. I can't believe I didn't mention him. Caden Weegan. So the wide receiver group is a group that Kirk Ferentz was quick to say that's one that's made a jump for us.
Yeah, stacked. This is a stacked receiving core. You can only play 3 at a time, and we have 6 guys that could really produce. Now that's a great problem to have. We're gonna have to. I'm sure he's gonna figure it out and see which way he wants to go in terms of who's gonna play the most. Excuse me, but we gotta feel confident what we have. We got Reese Vanderzee. We got some of those young guys. Good for Ken Weegan for getting that scholarship. That's got to tell you a little something about how much time he's going to get on offense. Not just, obviously, he's still going to return punts, but what he's going to do as a receiver. I have a hunch in my stomach that he's going to be a primary guy for us, but we'll see when it comes to fall. You don't bring in Sam Phillips to set him on the bench again. He's expecting to play. Maybe the Dayton Howards, maybe they have to wait another year. Seth Anderson, you got to imagine that he'll play, especially last year when he came back from injury. He was immediately a wide receiver 3. So you'll have to imagine that he's going to get some time. It's going to be a really split up group. I don't see besides Reese Vanderzee, like again, I said I'm very high on him this year. I don't see anybody that's really gonna be really ahead over the others. I think Reese Vanderzee will still be the one, but it'll be a very bunched group because it's gonna be so much even playing time, and that's so good for the offense. That's very telling about our passing offense, about all the weapons we have. Whether it's deep ball, little 5 yard slant, you got it all. We could do it all. We have so many targets that could produce. And again, with Mark Gronowski, you could throw the ball deep. It's going to be a different offense. It's going to be more exciting. If you loved Hawkeye football the past 3 years, and believe me, sometimes with the offense, it's very hard to love. If you loved it the past 3 years, you're going to love it next year.
The best things in life come to those that wait. Here's an update on players that were sidelined during the Iowa Open spring practice. This could be initially, Chris, an alarming collection of names right there when you look up. And we know we saw Mark Gronowski out there throwing the football a little bit for Iowa beforehand, just soft tossing it, but obviously not out there like Jackson Stratton, Hank Brown, and Jimmy Sullivan taking live 11 on 11 reps throughout the scrimmage portion for Iowa. So that is still around the bend coming up this summer for him. Bo Stevens, Logan Jones, starting offensive lineman for you. Jacob Gill could very well be a starting wide receiver for Iowa. And then we know Herkett, Pittman, those are big-time. Brian Allen, those are big-time defensive linemen for the Hawkeyes. Xavier Wampa, hearing really good things about what's going on with him this spring outside of, obviously, him being sidelined during the open spring practice. I would just say that over my 3+ years now covering Hawkeye football, which I'm sure for many of you is much longer than that, watching and living and breathing Hawkeye football, but I don't get carried away with injuries during the spring. I think Iowa has proven to be very cautious and mindful, as probably many programs are, but very cautious and mindful of the way that they approach the spring with pushing guys or getting veteran players in particular work. So I look at this list and I take what Kirk Ferentz said at face value. He did mention about Jennings Dunker, which Jennings Dunker is not on this list. I should have put his name up there too. Jennings Dunker, your starting right tackle, has been dealing with an orthopedic issue. Kirk Ferentz says it's nothing major. They addressed it during the open practice week, and that nothing injury-wise, Chris, is going to cost anybody time in August. So that's good news.
Yeah, I think it's just more precautionary than anything. We talked about it before. It's just a good time to see what everyone else can do. It's a good time to see, that's a lot of starters that are out right now. So who's going to be the two? Who's going to be the guy if one of these guys actually does go down? Who are we going to put in first? Who do we trust putting in first? Who's putting in the most work? Who's showing the most progress? I think that's the benefit of, having these guys kind of take a rest and take a back seat for now. Football is a big injury game. Injuries are going to happen. It happens every year to a lot of players. It's a very physical game. You get beat up every game. So you need to feel confident about your backups and who's going to step in. Now, it is subject to change throughout the course of a 12-game season, plus playoffs for those who are blessed enough to make the playoffs. But, you got to let's not be discouraged. Because even if it is, a slightly decent injury, still got a long way to go before the season. The season starts in late August. It is early May. That's about a 4-month window to get recovered for 4.5 months. So, not too discouraged. I'm just more excited to see who are gonna be the twos in the depth chart. So that's pretty much what I'm getting out of it. Is it's time to see who's gonna step up when needed.
I'm pretty sure it was our own Corey Brada from Iowa Hawkeyes Live, and you guys know Corey from the Hawkeye of the Storm, famous in Hawkeye circles. I'm pretty sure he's the one that asked the question about Bryce George specifically out of the transfer portal and how he's fitting in and why and how Kirk Ferentz and the Hawkeye football staff could feel comfortable evaluating bringing him in from Ferris State to Iowa and why he could fit in and slot in effectively for the Hawkeyes. And basically, Kirk, in summation, said he's a veteran guy that has, yes, played college football not at the Big Ten level, but they like the fact that physically he's matured and ready to go from that standpoint, and that sometimes you don't have to have played at the Big Ten level to come in when you're a veteran guy, which I think you look kind of across the board at not just the transfer portal additions this year, Chris, but over the last couple of years. Sam Phillips is somebody that's played football elsewhere at Chattanooga. You look at Shaheed Barrows, obviously has played football at South Dakota and been an impact guy elsewhere. Bryce Hawthorne, similar thing there. Jonah Pace. So Iowa has an MO, I think, for guys that it's looking at out of the transfer portal. And if you were concerned about the jump from Ferris State, where, oh, by the way, he was an All-American and rock star for a national champion, Bryce George, they're not concerned about that with him. And Iowa feels like because he's physically at that point, he's ready to just slot right in. And the other interesting thing he said, Chris, in closing on Bryce George here was that it didn't sound like he was just chalking it up that he's in the left tackle competition. He said, let me see if I can get into my notes here, that well, basically he said they've got a couple of offensive line spots that are jump ball positions for Iowa, which is to say that left tackle, right guard, I think Bryce George could be a factor at either.
Yeah, as you said, he's in the competition for left tackle. I'll take it a step further and say it's almost guaranteed that he's going to play. It's guaranteed that we're going to see him on the line when the season comes. That's what I'm getting out of it. If he's really competing for that left tackle spot, that's saying a lot about what they see in him, what they believe in him, and they just want to, either way, it just sounds like they want to have him in the lineup, and all those guys, you got to feel, confident about what they're going to bring, even though I think it's harder to evaluate defensive players. Obviously, when it's a quarterback, Mark Gronowski, you're going to see highlight tapes, you're going to see stats. With defensive players, I feel like a lot of those guys, that's what doesn't show up on the stat sheet. So it's harder to evaluate those in terms of additions. But, 26 years, he's been in the game a long time. He knows what to look for, and I think that, we're in a good spot. But as, T. Hicks said, are we going to add any other players? I've said it in the past show, you can never be content. Even the guys who win the championship, the Ohio States, they're not sitting back and, thinking, oh, okay, our roster's okay right now. You're going to keep looking for additions. You're going to keep looking to get better. And, we got Mark Gronowski, but they still Iowa went out and got Jeremy Hiklinski, even though he's probably not, we might not see him this season. Still an addition. There's still always more to look for. So we can feel confident about what we have. And trust me, I feel confident. I believe Hawkeye Nation does too. But in terms of, are we going to sit back and lay off on the portal? I don't think that's going to happen. We're going to keep looking for more because there might be a hidden gem in there still.
If there's somebody that can definitely help you at a position of need, I'm trying to think if the right option presented itself beyond Hudkins at safety, then, maybe you'd look there. I think always the trenches, either side of the football, offensive line, defensive line. I don't know that there's as big of a need anymore, but maybe another offensive lineman if the right fit emerged, just because, as Kirk Ferentz said in his final spring remarks, they got a couple of jump balls, Chris, on that offensive line. I think we know he's talking about left tackle, right guard, where they're replacing starters. Having said that, T. Hink, I'm not expecting another Iowa transfer portal addition. I think the attention turns to the 2026 class now, and we'll be following a lot of that as now we're into that portion on the schedule where the recruiting calendar from a high school standpoint really starts heating up in the way of trying to lock down commitments. And you've got your final, you have the big Iowa official visitors weekend coming up here in short order in the summer months. So I think you kind of turn your attention there, probably for the Hawkeyes, that most of the, if not all, of the transfer portal shuffling is done, unless just that perfect opportunity presents itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't want to say I don't want to expect anymore, but I think you make a good point. We're kind of at a place where we don't need to add anymore. I don't. Again, I kind of don't even want to say that. I think that if we don't add anybody else, we'll be fine. I definitely think that we've added everything we needed to add, and unless we have another prominent player that leaves for one reason or another, we might be content, and we might be a team that just kind of, like you said, focuses on the season ahead. It's good that you said it in the past show that Tim Lester, would be one to go out and go out on visits and recruit. But he's staying this offseason, focusing on next year. I think they understand that we have such a talented group, regardless of what we're losing in the draft and all that. And we have a lot of groundwork to do in terms of if we want to be back to that position we were last year, or even take it a step further. When there's 12 teams instead of 4, and I know that I saw some are pushing to 16. Don't know if that's happening this year, but that seems realistic. But now when you got more slots, it makes it more realistic that Iowa could somehow sneak in the spot. All we got to do is win a game or two more, and we could possibly be in the playoffs. And we have a team to do it. So, I think it's just the focus, like you said, is on next season. But if they do add anybody else, I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe someone will come out of nowhere.
Put this on your bingo card for next week, and we can jump into this in full. Well, I guess it helps if I show you his top 25 maybe first. Joel Klatt released his post-spring top 25 today, and lo and behold, the Hawkeyes, number 23, according to Joel Klatt, who you can see there some he loves the Big Ten. He's got Penn State number 1. I don't know about that. I don't know about Texas at number 2. I need to I know it's Arch Madness, but I need to see a little bit more football from Arch Manning before I'm ready to anoint the Texas Longhorns, though I think that roster is really good, and I think Texas is good. Ohio State, though, Oregon, a couple other Big Ten teams in Joel Klatt's top 5. Let's see. There's a lot of folks that are high on Illinois with Luke Altmaier coming back. I know that Coach Bielema had a great season a year ago, but that's too high for me. I can't get there yet with Illinois. I'd love to see it. I root for programs like Illinois to surprise and to be successful. And obviously the Bielema connection back to Iowa, pulling for him, in that regard, if it's not at the Hawkeyes' expense. But again, that's maybe a little too high for me. Let's see, Michigan right there at 12. And Iowa State, of course, of note to Hawkeye fans. Indiana, some respect there at number 21. And then obviously the Hawkeyes at number 23. And here's a little bit of what Joel Klatt said about Iowa. Iowa's earned the benefit of the doubt. Iowa generally doesn't get great quarterback play. I think this year, Chris, they could. Why? Well, Mark Gronowski is transferring in from South Dakota State. Gronowski's been exceptional at the FCS level, and I think he could have a Curtis Rourke-like impact on Iowa, which is, I like that. That's quite the quote from Joel Klatt. You're authoring the page views for us at Hawkeyes Wire, Joel. We appreciate that.
Yeah, I have a couple of takeaways from that list. Well, to see 7 Big Ten schools is good. Just get into it real quick because I know we're on time, but I kind of want to talk about it. It's on the top of my head. I'm with Seth and Tink. Illinois up on 10 is it's a very high number for a team that didn't make the playoffs. I will just put it out there. Respect to them, Big Ten foes, so not too much respect, but we'll see how that plays when the season comes. Notre Dame number 6, I feel like they should be higher considering they retained most of their talent, and especially getting Jeremiah Love back. That was huge for me. He definitely could have gone to the league and probably been first round. So to get him back was huge. And to see Arizona State at 15, I just don't know about that because Cam Scadaboo was such a big, huge reason to why they were so successful. For them to go be projected last in the Pac-12 to first is a big reason. You got to think what their best player did last year. Now he's gone. So those are my just really quick takeaways. And the Hawkeyes, good to see him in the top 25 after losing all that talent in the draft. My quick points right there.
Klubnik, folks excited about maybe what Clemson can do this season as well. They sneak into the top 5, but we can delve into that in more detail next week. Anything that you guys want us to chat about, by all means,